Right. Thank you so much, Anetra, for agreeing to come onto the podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. You all, if you remember, or if you know, if you didn't see, or if you saw back in October of 2022, when I was fortunate enough to do an event with Tracee Ellis Ross, and Anetra is the person who styled me. So she is the one who's responsible for me looking fabulous. And I thought it would be great to have her come on and talk about styling today. So thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to style you. I'm sure it's not the last.
It
One
is
of
not the
many.
last. We're going to speak it into existence. Yes, it is not the last.
Exactly. So it was a pleasure working with you and a pleasure to be on today to talk about style
Yeah,
and
yeah.
pregnancy.
So let's start off then. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and how you got interested in styling.
So I am a personal wardrobe stylist, certified personal
Okay.
wardrobe stylist and image consultant. I have been styling women professionally since 2014. When I first started, I was styling women, men, teens, preteens, but now
Okay.
my focus is mainly on women. I mean, every
Okay.
now and again I will style some men, but
Right.
my focus is on women.
Okay.
Um, like I said, I'm a personal wardrobe stylist and I'm mobile, so I will travel
All right. All right.
wherever the need is.
And you said you're certified. So what does that mean that you're
I
certified?
am. So it means that I know what I'm talking about.
There we
So
go. See,
I have,
yes.
right, I have the training and the knowledge to style women, and a lot of it's based on the body type.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes, women are like, I don't care about my body type. I just like this garment. I want to wear this garment. Um, but a lot of it is that, so I know how to style you for your body type and what will look best on you, to give you just that great silhouette.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also attention to detail and the little things that we don't always think of. I remember you had every single little detail nailed. So,
Well, that's so important too, because I do branding sessions as well and headshots.
mhm,
So when you're on camera, well, for one, when people are on camera, it's just natural to have some anxiety and,
sure.
you're a little nervous about it because all eyes are on you.
Sure.
But it's just important to, you know, be focused on the client.
Mhm.
And those small details matter because, one little thing can be out of place and it throws the image off.
Right.
Especially,
Right.
you're doing these branding sessions, you're thinking about your brand and how you want things to be. So that's a part of it. And if it's just one little thing that throws it off, you're like, oh my God, the picture was great. But it's that one little thing that's
Right.
throwing it off. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
mhm.
Details matter. Details matter. So let's start with talking about the pregnant body. We know that the body changes during pregnancy. So, what are your top like two or three tips for how to dress, how to feel good as your body is changing during pregnancy?
Well, I will say, I have a son too, so I've gone through that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I was pregnant, I didn't start showing until about 5 or 6 months.
Mm.
So I could just wear, regular clothing, and I may have worn regular clothing throughout my pregnancy.
Right, right.
But, as your body shifts and it's growing because it's preparing for your little one or multiples, if you have
Mm-hmm.
multiples. Um, one of my suggestions would be to just have support, of course. You need
Mm.
that support um, throughout the entire pregnancy and beyond to have that support because you have different hormones, of course, as you know.
Right.
So you can start to feel a certain way
Mm-hmm.
about your body.
Right.
And sometimes it may not be, a positive way about your body because
Right.
it's growing.
Sure.
And especially if you're used to being a certain size.
Right.
So I would say, have that support with you. So great support so that they can keep you feeling positive about what you're experiencing and what your body is experiencing, the beauty in that.
Gotcha.
So that's
Gotcha.
one of my top tips for that.
Gotcha. So
And
have people around you who are
right,
like who are supporting you. Like it starts with sort
yeah,
of the mental piece to connect with your body.
exactly.
Yeah.
and to be comfortable.
Right.
You have to be comfortable because it was a point, and I'm going to go back to my pregnancy again. There was a
Uh-huh.
point in my pregnancy where I was like, I cannot wear a certain garment that I really like to wear. I was like, it's uncomfortable
Sure.
at this point. So I had to change and wear it. And I had to accept that. And I did pretty early on. I was like, okay, look, this is just uncomfortable.
Right.
I need to switch. And I
Right.
was fine with it.
Right.
So just be comfortable as well.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So what are some, in terms of like clothes that folks wear, what are some things that you think are good go-tos for pregnant folks and maybe things that they should avoid?
Mhm. Maxi dresses are wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
even when you're not pregnant, because of course you want to get that material that's forgiving and that stretches as
Right.
well. But they're just because they're so flowy. Maxi dresses are great for a lot of body types, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're pregnant, because you are continuing to grow, but just to, to have that room in it, that's a great piece to have.
Sure.
Um, it's great to have a tiered dress as well, because
Hmm.
as you're growing as
Uh-huh.
well, and if you want to, if you're not ready to let the world know, okay, I'm expecting, you have
Right.
the tiered dress, so
Right.
you don't have to explain that. So that's a great piece to have.
Gotcha. And what is a
Um,
tear dress
so
specifically?
it's a dress that has like layers to it,
Got it. Okay.
that extra fabric.
Okay.
That's great. Yoga pants, of course, because you have the stretch in that, and they become very popular.
Right.
Because you can use it as a transitional piece as well,
Yeah.
even after you give birth, and you still are like, okay, well, I'm not quite ready to get back into my jeans or whatever. I can still wear these, or even if you want to get back into your jeans, you can still have them because they are comfortable
Right.
as well.
Right.
You want to get pieces that are not constricting, of course, like belts, because they can be
Yeah.
very constricting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
You want fabric that, like linen, cotton fabrics, maybe not polyester, because polyester can trap heat within your clothing. So you
Huh.
don't want that,
Okay.
because,
Yeah. Yes.
it's
Yes.
like you're growing. Your
Yes.
body's growing.
Yes.
It's like, okay,
Yes.
you may already be hot. So you're like, I
Yes.
don't want anything else
Yeah.
that's going to
Yeah.
retain that heat.
Man, pregnancy was the only time that I would be burning up, like on fire, burning up.
Yeah.
Yes. So I totally get like, uh-huh.
It
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
be.
I didn't know that about polyester.
Yeah, it can. So those are some great pieces that you should wear.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you want to get jeans, you have to get something that has a stretch band, or that elastic waist, or a waist that expands. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to get skinny jeans,
Sure. Sure.
you know.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
some people do, because they may not show until later, but you still want to keep in mind the comfort level. So if you want to do
Yeah.
that, that would be
Yeah.
great.
100%. And I will add one thing that I wish I probably would have invested in sooner is a good bra, because
Yes.
your breasts are going to grow. They just are. So,
They really, really are.
mhm.
Now, coming for me, I don't have a lot there.
Mhm.
But during pregnancy, I grew.
Mhm.
And, just to have that, it was like just the little things
Mhm.
really, really matter, because, you want to make sure you're still comfortable. Again, going back to that. And if you have something that has that wire in it, you're not going to be comfortable with that. So if you get a bra that's, seamless, of course, that's good. You could go to Blanky. So I'm going to recommend that,
Oh,
Blanqi.
okay.
It's a website that's geared for pregnant women,
Uh-huh.
for nursing and postpartum as well.
Huh.
And you can find some great pieces there. Again, comfort.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
wrap dresses are good too, because with the wrap dress, you can always adjust the tie on the side as well, so that you'll still remain comfortable.
Gotcha. 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 So what about for people who are like, I just want to show the bump. Like I'm ready to have it out. I'm just ready to show it. Like what are your
So
suggestions?
yeah, like
Yeah.
Rihanna, she's
Uh-huh.
pregnant again. And she was like, I am happy I'm pregnant and
Right.
I want everybody to see it.
Right.
Now I think that she still shopped at, some of the retailers that weren't specific towards maternity wear, which was
Mm-hmm.
great. She had like
Right.
some crop tops on. She had
Right.
on the white linen button down, which is great. I mean, that's a staple piece too. So
Right.
if you get that, it's dual purposes. So you don't have to
Gotcha.
worry about that. But if
Gotcha.
you still want to shop within the stores that aren't geared towards maternity, I say go for it. Again, as long as you're comfortable,
Uh-huh.
you're not restricting yourself or your baby, your growing bump.
Sure.
I say go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely say that that has been a change over the last, I mean, my children are older. They're, 13 and 15, but we're definitely have become more accepting of like showing a pregnant body and accepting it as normal.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's life, life growing.
Yeah.
So, again, I say go for it. I think she looked beautiful, and it was another actress, an actress who was pregnant during the same time. I think her name was Shay Mitchell,
Okay.
and she was showing her bump as well.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
the way they were styled, um, it just looked beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So we know that maternity photo shoots are so popular these
They
days.
are.
Lots of people love to do them.
They really are.
So for people who want to get outfits together for maternity shoots, what are some things that they should think about for a maternity shoot?
So for a maternity shoot, well, I would say get a stylist. I would, because it's an extra thing that you have to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you already have things going on with being pregnant and maybe being tired as well,
Sure.
depending on how far along you are, or just,
Abs-
you in general,
right.
to
Absolutely.
get a stylist so that the stylist could work with you on the shoot. Because you may want to do um, different poses. Now, another popular pose is the flyaway,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautiful. You
Mm-hmm.
have a beautiful gown and it's just flying away, and
Right.
you're showing your beautiful bump,
Right.
and that can be a task in it of itself to find a gown to
Right.
do that maternity shoot. So
Right.
the less stress you can put on yourself, the better.
Right.
And then you have all aspects. You have the wardrobe portion. You have the photographer. You have to think about the location,
Mm-hmm.
just the different aspects. That's why I say, hire a stylist, because that's one less thing that you have to worry about.
Right, right,
But
right.
if you wanted to do it on your own,
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm going to go back to the comfort
Sure.
aspect of it. You have to think about that when you're thinking about the wardrobe. You have to think about colors.
Mm-hmm.
Say if you're like, okay, I love blue, so I want blue. So you have to think about the pieces that you need to pick out. You have to think about if you want to wear shoes, or if
Mm-hmm.
you want to be barefoot, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
wear heels. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you have to consider that if you can stand in the heels,
Sure.
just every little thing that comes
Right.
into play with
Right.
that.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. And
mhm.
also like jewelry. What pieces do you want to wear and what looks
Exactly.
good
Can you
in
tolerate the
photographs?
jewelry? I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're pregnant, you may become allergic to some jewelry.
Mm-hmm. 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 I
Yeah.
love how you're very much so focused on like be comfortable. Like this is not a time to like don't torture yourself with anything that's
No,
yeah, like don't do that. Like you can still look great and be comfortable. And it's good to like focus on your comfort during this changing time in your life.
you're right. I mean, it's a huge transition in your
Mm-hmm.
life, because after it's over, you're gonna have this beautiful precious baby.
Mm-hmm.
So again, as less stress as possible. Um, that's going to help with your self-care as well, because
Sure.
you have to think about that too. And if you can, be in a certain mind frame and do certain activities
Mm-hmm.
that will cater towards your mental health,
Mm-hmm.
that's even better,
Right.
because you may not be able to do it as often once the baby comes.
Right.
you know
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about after you have the baby and you have this new postpartum body. What are your suggestions for feeling good and dressing yourself, dealing with the changes of your postpartum body?
well, I will say, first and foremost, just give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself that, because you've gone through this process and your body is going to shift. You may not have the same body type that you had before you had the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. I think, within our culture now, because of social media too, it's like the
Mm-hmm.
snapback game is,
Yes.
it's like a week later and they're back in the same size
Right. Right.
pre-pregnancy. And I'm like, that's not real.
At all.
So yes, probably stay off of social media, because it's not real. It's not real. It's not life. Um, so give yourself that grace, and give yourself time too, to know that if you have goals
Mm-hmm.
for, your pre-pregnancy body, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
take time.
Sure.
It
Sure.
really is. And don't get so frustrated if it's taken a little longer. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you should take longer,
Right.
because you're enjoying your baby
Yeah.
and you're bonding with your baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
do that. And then when we're talking about the wardrobe aspect of it,
Uh-huh.
that you should still dress comfortably
Mm-hmm.
in pieces, because your body, your uterus has to do what it has to do,
Right.
of
Right.
course.
Right.
So you still want to dress in those comfortable pieces. Or if you've had a cesarean, you're still sore,
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
you still want to be comfortable with those pieces. You can still wear the pieces that I mentioned before. Um, and at some point
Right.
you can start to shift from that into your pre-pregnancy clothing that you used to wear beforehand.
Sure.
But if your body has still shifted, you probably need to purchase some more pieces, especially if you don't fit into the pregnancy pieces
Right.
that you've acquired. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're a little too big, but you're still not at that weight you were before. So
Right.
you probably have to go shopping for new pieces. But
Right.
still, again, keep in mind that comfort level, um, with the clothing and even with the shoes, because your
Absolutely.
your your feet still may be swollen, a little
Yeah.
swollen.
Mm-hmm.
you know my feet did. I mean, I was like, oh my god, my feet are so swollen. I couldn't
Right.
tie up my towards the end, I couldn't tie
Yeah.
up my shoes.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just, yeah,
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
all
It's
at once for me. you know
absolutely. Yeah.
my cousin, I remember him saying, and he came to my mom's house. I was there. He was like, whoa, where'd that come from? Because he's used to me being thin, and it
Right.
was like last time he'd seen me,
Right.
I wasn't that big, and he was
Right.
like, where did
Right.
that come from?
Right. Right. Right.
I'm like, it happens that
it
way.
it happens. It happens indeed. It happens indeed. So then let's talk through what if somebody is like, okay, maybe for the listeners who may be a year postpartum and they're like, they feel like they've gotten their body kind of settled where it's going to be. What if they're like ready for like a little wardrobe update or that kind of thing? What would it be like to work with the stylist and do like a closet clean out, get some staple pieces? What does that look like?
So I'm gonna go back to when we chatted, when we had our
Uh huh.
consultation. I got to know you a bit better,
Right.
because I love to know my client
Mm-hmm.
and what their goals are, and
Right.
what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what they're open to, and what they're
Mm-hmm.
totally against.
Right.
Because that will help me. And sometimes that changes, because
Sure.
a client can say, well, I don't like that. No. And then we go shopping, and they're like, oh, but I do like it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right.
So I get to know the client first with the consultation.
Uh-huh.
And then we decide, we want to do a closet cleanse, a closet audit, where I will come into their home. And I know it's so personal. It's so personal. And
Sure.
so many emotions are tied to it. Now, even more emotions would be tied to it because it's postpartum.
Right.
So, I take extra care and I keep that in mind because I'm like, I've gone through this too. I know. And I
Right.
know how you get emotionally tied to your clothing. So I keep that in mind. And when I do the closet audit, I'm thinking about the goals and the body type and looking for any of those staple pieces that they have. Some clients, they want to do a capsule wardrobe. And the capsule wardrobe includes a lot of the staple pieces. I mean, it could be for the mom because she's busy and she doesn't want as many options.
Sure.
So she's pretty much living a minimalist lifestyle.
Right.
And at that point, she may want to or need to.
Right.
So if she wants to do a capsule, that will look a little different, opposed to if she wanted more options.
Gotcha.
So we would, I would assess that and go through the closet and see which pieces we could continue to work with and which pieces need to be donated. Because when I do the closet audit, a lot of the times the pieces that don't work for her will be donated.
Yeah.
To worthy causes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And then after the audit, we work with what we have and see how we can style those pieces that are left and determine if we need to go shopping. A lot of times we do need to go shopping for pieces. And when we go shopping, I mean, I do it a few ways. I can do it with the client, I can do it by myself, or we can do a hybrid. The two, depending on their comfort level. It's always about their comfort level.
Sure.
Because some women, they have that anxiety around the whole process. I recently had a client who I've had to do a hybrid with her. We went and did the shopping portion of it. But I was told ahead of time that she had anxiety around the whole process and style and wardrobe. But I assured her, I said, if at any point you feel like it's too much, if it's too overwhelming, let me know, because we will stop.
Right.
And I will pick it up.
Right.
I will do it on my own. I know your style, I know what you like, but I'll keep you in the loop along the way.
Right.
And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It was like she could exhale at that point.
Yes.
She really could. But I wanted her to go shop. I wanted to go shopping with her because we had to have some pieces tailored.
Okay.
So I wanted her to be there for that. But, I could see some of the signs
that it was a lot for her.
That it was coming. So I was like, I don't want to overwhelm her. I don't want to do that. I want this to be a great experience for her.
Right. Right.
So we did that. And it's a threshold. It's about 3 hours.
Okay.
That I can do it, for the audit and for the shopping. Because I tested this. And I've seen a client or two. I could see it on their face. It was like, oh,
after it's too much. Right.
It's like, no, it's over. It's a wrap.
Right.
So
right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then the last thing you mentioned, staple pieces. What are things that you consider to be staple pieces?
So staple pieces are classic pieces that are not trendy, that you'll have forever. Gotcha. Hopefully. If your body doesn't shift too much. Like, so say the white button down, that's a staple piece.
Okay.
A pencil skirt, that's a staple piece. A wrap dress, that's a staple piece as well.
Okay.
So pieces like that. And then they can be interchangeable as well. A lot of times people like, okay, well, I have a busy life, maybe I'm going to work, and then after I have a function, so I need those transition pieces, and they're functional as well. And, you just swap out maybe your shoe, or you take off your blazer, that's a staple piece as well, and you're on your way.
Gotcha. And I guess also too, like, you don't necessarily, I wonder sometimes, does it feel overwhelming? Like you have to change all these things at once. Like you can kind of gradually sort of update things and change things. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. again, going back to the anxiety portion of it
Mm-hmm.
and the emotional piece of it,
Mm-hmm.
some people are not ready. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, I want to do a little bit gradually. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the best approach, honestly.
Okay.
If you have a lot of feelings around that, that's the
Sure.
best way to do it. It's
Sure.
baby steps,
Right.
lots of
Right.
baby steps,
Right.
because, if I were to push too hard, I
Mm-hmm.
would push them away.
Sure.
And that's
Sure.
not what I want to do.
Sure.
I have another client who I've worked with. We started with the audit,
Mm-hmm.
then we went shopping, and I was like, well, do you want to do branding? Because, she's an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I do. But she wasn't ready.
Okay.
She wasn't
Okay.
ready. And I was like, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to push. I'm not going to push because,
Right.
when the time is right, it will
Sure.
happen.
Right.
So now she's come back around and she was like, I'm ready now.
Right.
I was like,
Right.
okay, good. But I
Okay.
always want to remain in contact with the client too, just to see, not just for professional reasons,
Yeah.
but personal reasons, because I
Yeah.
want to see what they have going on, how they're
Mm-hmm.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
how they're growing, how
Mm-hmm.
they're excelling.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not just the professional part of it, because I
Sure.
want to see them thrive and do well.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So then as we wrap up, what would you say is the most frustrating part of your work?
The most frustrating part
Mm.
is, I don't think there's a frustrating part.
Okay. Well, there we go.
I mean, I love seeing the light bulb moment with
Uh-huh.
the client,
Okay. Well, that was my
because
next question.
right,
What's the most rewarding
right,
part?
because a lot of times, people are visual. They really
Mm-hmm.
are visual, and it's like, I can explain it to them, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put you in these pieces, and this is why I'm putting you in these
Uh-huh.
pieces. But then I take a picture.
Right.
So I'm gonna go back to my previous client, the
Uh-huh.
one who, I'm doing the hybrid with.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I always do that. I always take the pictures and
Mm-hmm.
video.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, how do you feel about this piece? And then I was like, okay, I could see she's getting a little overwhelmed. I was like, okay, nope, don't don't think about it.
Right.
I'm going to take these pictures. After we've tried on these pieces, I'm going to come back to you
Mm-hmm.
once you've settled some and just relaxed after you've
Mm-hmm.
tried on all the pieces.
Right.
And I'm going to show you the images. And then you tell me, because before she'd be like, I don't know, it's a maybe, or I don't know about this piece. I
Right.
don't know if I like this piece.
Right.
But then when I came back to her and I showed her the images, she was like, oh, I really do like that piece. And I
Uh-huh.
like that piece. And I like that
Right.
piece.
Right. Right.
So sometimes, a lot of times, we're our own worst critic.
Uh-huh.
And she was just looking at herself in the mirror and
Right.
just seeing it and just picking herself apart pretty
Right.
much.
Right.
But
Right.
once I showed her on my phone what it actually looked like, she was like, oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like your work is like, it's not just about like having the person look a certain way. It's about like curating a look so that they feel good about themselves. They feel confident in their skin and what they're wearing, and not to look like any celebrity or any particular person. It's really about helping them feel like the best version of themselves.
yes, it's very therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things, one of my whys is, to help women feel confident and see their beauty. Because oftentimes, unfortunately, they're like, oh, I don't like this. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they don't like their midsection, they don't like their arms, or whatever the case may be. But I wanted the process to feel that they can just embrace who they are,
Right.
you know, as we're going through it, because I'm there to be their biggest cheerleader.
Sure.
I'm there
Yeah.
as their stylist, their curator, their image consultant, but to be their biggest cheerleader and to help them see the beauty that I'm seeing, because we're all
Right.
beautiful,
Yeah.
you know. I'm there to help them to see that. It starts from within and then it's going to
Yeah.
radiate out.
Sure. Sure.
So I'm there to help them to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I
And
love
they
it.
do. They're like, oh my God, that light bulb moment,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
transformation.
Right.
And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I get to be a part of that, which is a
Right.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like with
Absolutely.
you too. Because I could
Yeah, and I
see
was
it.
here to say,
I could see it.
I
I could.
listen. I felt like a boss. I was like, I was owning everything when I showed up that day. So that is exactly what I
Yeah.
felt
I
afterwards.
saw it
Exactly
in
what I
those
felt.
images. I was like, look at her, look at her. And you were standing beside Tracee Ellis Ross, and she's a
Right.
force. But I
Right.
was like, oh, she is holding her own. She is.
I was because I was so well put together. It was perfect, but still felt like myself. So that was the
Yeah.
key.
I
I
mean, and
still
that's
felt like
important.
myself.
A lot of times women are like, I still want to feel like me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, of course,
Mm-hmm.
when we go through the consultation, I'm like, who do you draw inspiration from? Yes,
Right.
that'll help me, but putting your own spin on it, or us
Sure.
putting the spin on it, so that you're still you and you feel like
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then, what is your favorite piece of advice that you would give to someone who's pregnant or a new mom about personal style or women
I
in
would.
general? Mm.
Oh, pregnancy or just overall?
Either one. How about both?
Okay. Pregnancy, of course, I'm going to go back to the grace, giving yourself the grace and being
Yes.
comfortable. And
Yes.
with the style aspect of it, just, I know you have someone growing inside of you, and I
Mm-hmm.
get that. And a lot of times, during that state, you feel like, well, who am I?
Right.
I'm about to be a mom, but outside of a mom, who am I? So it's
Mm-hmm.
still important to remain authentic in who you are, even though you're
Yes.
going to be a mom. You still have to be who
Yes.
you are, and
Yes.
that style should be reflective of that.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I
that's
love that.
overall.
Yeah. Yes.
You should
Yes.
remain authentic to you. I mean, because we
Yes.
all have a bunch of different titles. We're mom, you're a doctor, I'm a
Mm.
stylist.
Right.
Um, but I'm Anitra, and I have a certain style.
Right.
So I want to remain true to that, because if you don't, you're not going to be confident, and that's just going to show. How you show
Absolutely.
up, you're not going to be comfortable. You're not going to be confident in who you are. You're not going to be your best you. So just remain
Absolutely.
authentic.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So where can people find you?
They can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. I'm on
Okay.
Facebook, all under Neechic,
Okay.
Neechic. And my website is neechicstyles with an
Mm-hmm.
S.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Anitra, for coming on
You're
to the
very welcome.
podcast. This was a great conversation. I know folks are going to find it helpful. And again, I'm claiming we'll be working together again.
Yes, we will. And I'll continue to be in touch. Like I said, I want to make sure. I know you're doing great things. I think was it Candace? Did you deliver baby
I did
Candace?
not. I did not.
Oh,
I did
okay.
not. No, no. And I can't talk about. Listen, but how about we wrap up and then we can talk about some things
Okay, okay.
afterwards. All right. All right. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Let me hit stop.